Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 479 based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng looked at Star Tower, which was floating. To make Star Tower recognize him as his master, he almost died before, and the more powerful he became, the more mysterious he felt Star Tower was. Where does it come from? Luo Feng was more than confused. Yes, Mr. Milky Way, the golden light being answered. And then, two traces of light shot out of its eyes and began to inspect Star Tower. Light kept coming from its body, covering Star Tower. 1 second, 2 seconds. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Luo Feng waited as he watched. However, it would take days for the membrane of the miniature universe to be completely white, so he would be able to make it back. It had been more than 5 minutes, yet the being of golden light was still inspecting the tower. Still not done yet? Luo Feng couldn't help asking, as it had only taken it a short while to inspect Shawu Wing. The golden light being didn't react at all. It was still inspecting the tower. At the top level of Wu Chi Tower in the world of Jin, the godly king of Jin country was looking in that direction. He appeared confused as he said, "This true treasure. I've never seen it before. It's so intricate and superlative that I can't discern anything from it. It's definitely a valuable that only godly kings would be able to forge, godly kings that are proficient in creating valuables." In the ancient civilization, godly kings were the pinnacle beings, akin to the emperors of some civilizations. Like the ancestral teachers of the 3 generations and the rhinoceros emperor, they were all at godly king level. However, they were proficient in different aspects. Some were great at close combat, some were skilled at distant attacks, some were proficient at valuable making, and some were skilled at machines. He's just as great as me, if not better. Who made this valuable? Why didn't I see this valuable before? The godly king of Jin country was confused. Although he was only a virtual consciousness, he had all the memories of the real godly king of Jin, so he knew every single supreme true treasure of the ancient civilization. Luo Feng was waiting. After a long while, the golden light being took back all the light. "How was it?" asked Luo Feng. He looked a bit anxious. The golden light being said respectfully, "I've inspected it carefully, but I couldn't find anything. It's out of the inspection of my range." "Out of your range?" Luo Feng was confused. "Yes," said the golden light being. "I can know everything about valuables within the range of eternal true gods. However, when it surpasses the eternal true god level, it'll be difficult for me. In my opinion, this is a valuable used by beings at the holy level, at least." Luo Feng raised his eyebrows, but he wasn't surprised. Although he wasn't powerful enough, he could tell that though Shawu Wing was incredible, yet it wasn't even half as mysterious or mystical as Star Tower. Shawu Wing was a top-tier machine-type valuable used by eternal true gods, so Star Tower was at least used by beings at the holy level. "Mr. Milky Way," the golden light being said respectfully. "I just received a message from His Majesty the Godly King. A message about this valuable." "His Majesty the Godly King?" Luo Feng was overjoyed. The Godly King knew a lot, so there was a chance he knew something about this valuable. It wasn't a surprise he knew about it. After all, the world of Jin was controlled by His Majesty the Godly King. "What did His Majesty the Godly King say?" asked Luo Feng. "He said that this tower-type valuable could only have been forged by a godly king," said the golden light being. "Plus, it's definitely a top-tier valuable forged by a godly king who was an expert at making valuables, and it was forged after using lots of precious material and a great amount of energy. This tower-type valuable is enough for a godly king to use as a major weapon." Luo Feng was thrilled. A major weapon of a godly king? Luo Feng had several valuables personally, but ordinary valuables were only used for play. Only valuables like Shawu Wing and Star Tower were used as major weapons. However, the godly king of Jin country had said that Star Tower was powerful enough to be a major weapon for a godly king, and it was a top-tier valuable forged by a godly king excellent at making valuables. How did I get this?" Luo Feng found it hard to believe. It definitely wasn't made by Sitting Mountain Guest. Luo Feng couldn't believe it any longer. Sitting Mountain Guest was only a true god. Perhaps he had met with endless great opportunities, but he was only a true god. No matter how fortunate he was, it was impossible for him to have made a perfect valuable that only a godly king great at making valuables could forge. Where does it come from? Asked Luo Feng. Such a supreme valuable must have been renowned even in the ancient civilization. The Golden Light being said respectfully, the masters of true gods at this level should all be prominent, and the true treasures should also be well known. However, His Majesty the Godly King said he has never seen a true treasure like this, and he's never heard of a true god at this level in the ancient civilization. He hasn't even heard about it? Luo Feng was confused. There were several possibilities. 1. After Jin country was destroyed, a true treasure, Star Tower, was born in the ancient civilization, and Sitting Mountain Guest had obtained it somehow. Another was that long before Jin country was destroyed, a supreme being in the ancient civilization left Star Tower behind, but it had been a long time ago, so long that even the godly king of Jin didn't know about it. Another possibility was that the supreme being who had forged Star Tower had never publicized it. Teacher Sitting Mountain Guest did meet with great luck, Luo Feng thought. Besides, he must be up to something big. Otherwise, he wouldn't have just cultivated the Earthlings to inherit this valuable only to give up a valuable like Star Tower. I speculated that he was somehow related to Jin country, or at least related to Jin country after it was destroyed. However, even the godly king of Jin doesn't know where Star Tower come from. Luo Feng was even more confused. Regardless, he had confirmed with the godly king of Jin country that Star Tower was a major weapon used by godly kings, and even the godly king of Jin hadn't been aware of it. Can you check this one? Luo Feng waved his hands and took out Blood Shadow Blade to let the Golden Light being examine it. In Godly King Valley, His Majesty the Godly King smiled. This Milky Way has a lot of valuables. Milky Way, this blade is an embryo at the Godly King level, said the Godly King of Jin. His voice echoed in Luo Feng's ears. It used a lot of precious materials. However, you need to imprint your own techniques into the blade so that the embryo can become a true weapon, which is something commonly used by supreme beings. After all, it's almost impossible to make a valuable at the level of your Tower-type valuables. What's the name of that Tower-type valuable? Luo Feng smiled upon hearing the voice of His Majesty the Godly King. Your Majesty, the name of this tower is Star Tower. Luo Feng didn't fear the possibility that the Godly King of Jin craved the valuable. After all, His Majesty the Godly King had died a long time ago, and all that was left of him was a virtual consciousness. Valuables were useless to him. Plus, the Godly King of Jin had been expecting for him for a long time. Star Tower, said the Godly King of Jin, transmitting his voice. This is a seal-type valuable that can suppress lots of enemies, and it can even enslave the enemies. When you become stronger in the future, you will easily enslave enemies you trap in this Star Tower, and they'll never betray you. Of course, the weaker the great beings are, the easier it is to enslave them. It's mainly used for suppression, but it can also be used for fighting. It's also one of the most precious fighting-type valuables, and it's a major weapon used by godly kings. It's invaluable. Even when your embryo becomes a godly king's sword, 10 of them can rival one, not to mention an embryo. It's really lucky for you to have gotten that. I'm even more confident that you can achieve my goal. Luo Feng held his breath as he listened to the godly king's words. Even when Blood Shadow Blade became a godly king blade, 10 of them could rival one. Suppression? Enslavement? Star Tower can enslave my enemies? Luo Feng thought. It seems I'm too weak to fully exploit Star Tower. Luo Feng left the world of Jin with many valuables, but he left his godly power avatar in world of Jin. Star Tower. Shawu Wing. Luo Feng was smiling. These two valuables were indeed incredible, especially Star Tower. Even if he had already known how special Star Tower was, he was still amazed. What's your goal, teacher? Luo Feng thought. Sitting Mountain Guest had spent endless eras, for what? Luo Feng could tell that it was related to some of the deep secrets of Universe Ocean. Even Sitting Mountain Guest had said that he could only talk about it after the crisis of the Sector Beasts was over, which meant it would be pointless to talk about it while the Sector Beasts were still around. Ha ha. If I just stay in Star Tower, even if 10 million Sector Beasts attacked me at the same time, they couldn't hurt me. Luo Feng was thrilled. Star Tower was a major weapon used by godly kings, and every Sector Beast was only at the true god level, so even if they attacked at the same time, it was nothing to Star Tower. However, he still needed to be careful. Even though Star Tower was indestructible, Luo Feng would still be unable to resist the attacks from 10 million Sector Beasts. They could just push Star Tower into some out-of-the-way place. That's the core area of Tilted Peak Sector, after all, thought Luo Feng. Even if I can survive some terrifying places, I'll be trapped there forever, like 3 Extremes Abyss. If all the Sector Beasts push my Star Tower into 3 Extremes Abyss and I can come back with Undying River, my Star Tower will never make it way back. He was indeed confident, but he would still lose his life if he wasn't careful enough. Fortunately, I have Morosa. Luo Feng took a look at the Sector Beast at his side. In the chaos air in Universe Ocean, Star Tower was moving forward quickly, entering Luo Feng's miniature universe. My avatar will drive this spaceship, said Luo Feng. Morosa, stay in the ship and sense everything in the hive of the Sector Beasts. Yes, Master, answered Morosa. Luo Feng smiled. Just do what I said. I'll go to the hive now, and I'll capture many Sector Beasts and bring them back for you to swallow. Ah. Morosa was exhilarated. If a Sector Beast was suppressed by Star Tower, even level 3 Sector Beasts could do nothing but wait to be eaten by Morosa. Even level 4 Sector Beasts could still be eaten by Morosa with Luo Feng's help. Just help me and I'll give you many perks, said Luo Feng. Then he left his miniature universe. As for Morosa, Luo Feng wished to cultivate him as the king of the Sector Beasts. The hive of Sector Beasts. Luo Feng looked at the endless space in the distance. Star Tower moved forward toward Tilted Peak Sector in Universe Ocean. In less than half a day's time, Luo Feng arrived at Tilted Peak Sector, which had been surrounded by an endless water domain. Luo Feng dove right into the waters and immediately teleported toward his targeted venue. He advanced towards the Space of Wings. Earlier on, the Space of Wings was where he had obtained the pair of white wings and the origin. If he had taken the usual route to get to the Land of Darkness, he would have had to enter that mountain peak and charge through the vast region within the peak to finally enter the core. However, by taking another passage via the Space of Wings, he could reach the core immediately. The first time I came here, I was very careful. Maneuvering Star Tower, Luo Feng drove through the Space of Wings and entered another passageway. He was already very familiar with the place. Previously, during the time when he was trying to achieve the breakthrough to get his godly body to the 3rd level, Luo Feng had taken this passageway several times to get to the Land of Darkness. Previously, this was where I got the origin. If I can get a hold of another origin, that would be great. But such things are always happening by chance. It's not as though I can simply get one by asking for it. Luo Feng shook his head with a sigh. The origin was very powerful. It was important to note that even for a true god of void space, it was a difficult task to destroy a true god weapon, supreme true treasure, yet with the help of Shawu wings, which could release 1 billion beams of blade rays, the origin was able to destroy such a true god weapon. Luo Feng definitely wanted to get his hands on more such trump cards. This was why, as early as the billionth era, while he was in the world of Jin, he had once requested that General Harmonious Snow execute his automaton-type treasure to transform and store his godly power, then attempt to bring this stored power out of the world of Jin. A pity. The moment the power was exposed to the outside world, the transformed power had automatically dispersed and had been annihilated. The intangible, supreme universe law exerts its influence over everything, Luo Feng muttered to himself. Within the world of Jin, all the great beings were not able to get out. If they set foot outside, they are bound for death. Even the transformed godly power cannot be brought out. Only some lifeless objects, like weapons, treasures, blood, skin, and hair samples, are allowed out of the world of Jin. If only General Harmonious Snow and his warriors could come out, then that great army of sector beasts would have been annihilated ages ago. The sector beasts might have been very powerful, but they were, after all, still in their breeding period. To the various races of Universe Ocean, it was a great crisis. But to the world of Jin, it would have been a breeze. Sending millions of true gods aboard Jin Luo Universe, they could have swept out the entire sector beast nest. Or perhaps if eternal true gods were to be sent out instead, they could have swept out everything, too. Unfortunately, all of them were stuck in the world of Jin. Obviously, all of these were under the influence of the intangible, supreme universe law. When the Jin nation was destroyed, all lives of the world of Jin became trapped within that miniature universe for eternity, forever void of the chance to come out. Luo Feng shook his head and lamented. Star Tower barged about in a rampage, at times teleporting, at times flying at high speed, paying no heed to safety or dangers. Of course, there were scary regions that one would not be able to leave the moment they fell within, such as Three Extreme Abyss and Icy Wind Devil Cave. These were places that even Luo Feng had to take a detour around. These were places known to be the lands of nightmares. Maybe he had the ability to escape upon falling in, but he was not ready to take the gamble. If he was really stuck in there, it would be a dumbfounding turn of events. Amidst the red-hot lava, Star Tower continued to advance. Flying out of the layer of lava, far into the distance, it was approaching the endless whirlwind whirlpool. Every whirlwind was like a blade of light from a super great being, with an incredibly powerful tearing force. Star Tower was, undoubtedly, able to charge in easily. Even though it was not affected by the influence of the whirlwind and was able to stay on course, Luo Feng took an extra step in borrowing the strength of these whirlwinds to propel Star Tower ahead at an even faster pace. It is the 10,000 waves water region ahead, Luo Feng said to himself. After I get to the 10,000 waves water region, I will be near the land of darkness. Jinjiu Emperor and Dragon Rock Ancestral God are both at the 10,000 waves water region. Luo Feng had been here multiple times. Secretly, he had chanced upon the discovery that both Jinjiu Emperor and Dragon Rock Ancestral God were at this place. However, to avoid attracting unnecessary attention from the sector beasts, Luo Feng had not made any moves. Compared to the sector beast crisis, both Jinjiu Emperor and Dragon Rock Ancestral God were merely ants that were not worth a dime of attention. When I am in a true confrontation with the sector beasts, and there is time to spare, I will just end it with you two along the way. Star Tower flew right into the 10,000 waves water region without pause, then started to close on the land of darkness. The faraway boundary of this vast water region was shrouded in total blackness. It was a kind of darkness that would bring shudders to the human soul. When the sector beast was yet to be born, if one were to fall into the deep abyss of this land of darkness, they would be lost for eternity. Escape was almost impossible. Generally, many would just roam about the borders, or if some universe masters had other bodies, they might dare to step into the abyss because even if that body were to die, it would only mean losing one of their multiple bodies. Morosa. Star Tower came to a halt at the border of the land of darkness. Luo Feng looked far off into the distance, where the sight of endless darkness greeted him. Within Luo Feng's miniature universe. Morosa, hand me the star map of the sector beast's nest, the godly-powered avatar said. And also, the positions of every single one of those millions of sector beasts, indicate them on the map. Morosa replied with great deference, yes, Master. But Master, I may be able to remotely detect the position of every sector beast, but the distance between them is far too great, so the coordinates I give can only indicate an approximate region. It is already scaled down to a smaller area. The degree of precision won't be very on point. That will do. The godly-powered avatar nodded. As Morosa carefully tried to detect the location of the other sector beasts, traces of sector beast power also started to dissipate from the surface of his body to be suspended in midair. These traces of sector beast power condensed to form a huge sphere with a diameter of around 1 million kilometers. The entire sector beast nest has become a sphere, Morosa explained. It has the ability to affect all the senses. If any of you true gods from the universe ocean fall deep into it, you all be lost within it. Thereafter, that sphere, with a diameter of 1 million kilometers, started to show specks of light, and around every speck was a halo. There were countless such spots. Every spot of light here represents one sector beast, said Morosa. The area that the halo spreads out over is the region where the sector beast might possibly be found. This is the best I can provide, an approximate region for every sector beast's location. Shortly after, on the gigantic sector beast nest model, some mountain ranges and rivers started to emerge. There are other material objects to be found in the land of darkness. I may be your servant, but I am unable to detect your whereabouts, my master. The godly-powered avatar nodded. It was difficult to detect one's whereabouts within Universe Ocean, which was why there were often incidences of individuals getting lost within Universe Ocean. Even though Morosa was Luo Feng's servant, it was unable to detect the exact location of Luo Feng's whereabouts. On the contrary, it would be able to detect the locations of all the other sector beasts. This was a talent that these sector beasts were born with. Master, you may want to rely on the mountain ranges, rivers, and gigantic mountain rocks to determine the coordinates of your own whereabouts, Morosa suggested. Of course, you can also rely on the location of the sector beasts to help determine your own whereabouts. The only problem with this method is that the beasts will discover you easily. Presently, the number of sector beasts, excluding myself, reaches a total of more than 9.2 million. Very well, said the godly-powered avatar. Please mark out and indicate for me the location of 10,000 Waves Water region. There is no way I can mark that out, Morosa said. After the land of darkness takes a spherical form, internally, it is revolving very slowly and continuously every moment. Relative to the revolution on the inside, some mountain ranges do not change locations. But to the outside world, the land of darkness is ever-changing. Thus, it is easy to lose one's way within the land of darkness. In that case, the godly-powered avatar replied immediately, giving its orders, you must continue to sense them carefully. When those sector beasts change location, you have to change the model accordingly to ensure that you are in tune with the changes all the time. Yes, Master. Morosa showed absolute obedience. Go in. Star Tower was at the border of 10,000 Waves Water region before it finally flew straight into the endless darkness. Star Tower was shrinking. Luo Feng carefully controlled Star Tower. Although it was said to be darkness, to a strong being like Luo Feng, dark was no different from light. Through his influence over time and space, he could still see clearly what was far in the distance. Dead silence. As though there is nothing at all. Luo Feng held his breath. He did not dare to be the least bit careless. At that very moment, he was very unclear about where he was. He needed to rely on the reference points within the land of darkness to understand what was around him and what was happening, but the period before he found those reference points was the most dangerous time. I hope that by being invisible and formless will not be discovered by the sector beasts. The moment I am discovered, my first plan will have failed. After all, there were more than 9.2 million sector beasts now. It was too densely populated in the nest. It would be just like how huge Axe had been annihilated shortly after falling into the land of darkness, or how Hong and I Devil God were discovered shortly after they entered. It was almost a given fact that Luo Feng was bound to be discovered, too, so he could only pin his hopes on the power of being invisible and formless, and seeing if the sector beasts would overlook any loopholes. Hide! Star Tower vanished, and Luo Feng appeared within the void space. Soon after, his body transformed. Change. A floating stone was charging toward the land of darkness, sometimes teleporting, sometimes just floating. This stone was void of life, just like an ordinary mountain rock. As it was advancing, it was also sensing the space ripples. Luo Feng knew that his teleportation distance could be much further than the sector beasts, and naturally, he could detect things over a longer distance. If he did not detect anything amiss, he would continue to teleport again and again. Luo Feng felt a sudden shock and immediately stopped. A short moment later, a hideous-looking sector beast teleported over. Relying on its ability to detect things in space, it had discovered the presence of the rock right away. Eh? The two singular, bloodshot eyes stared at the rock. Why is there a rock here, suddenly out of nowhere? Could it be a piece that flew over from the mountains that collapsed and shattered when the other fellows were fighting one another? Humph! This hideous-looking beast stomped on the rock without warning. With a loud sound, the rock shattered into many pieces. The sector beast displayed indifference and left. Luo Feng started to detect around him again. After waiting a long while after the sector beast left, he said, "Condense." The rock condensed again, but this time, upon transformation, it took on a different look. Once again, he teleported to advance. This was how Luo Feng carefully relied on his invisible and formless power to avoid being discovered by the sector beasts. He had encountered 3 sector beasts in total, and based on their locations, he determined his own approximate coordinates. Then, finally, he arrived at a certain spot on that floating mountain range. This mountain range was 1 trillion kilometers tall. Rolling on, it floated amid the air in a land of darkness. A piece of rock fell from the mountain range and instantly took on human form. Luo Feng heaved a sigh of relief. My location is now confirmed. Determining his coordinates was only the first step. Depending on my ability to stay invisible and formless, the sector beasts cannot recognize me, Luo Feng said to himself silently. However, the moment I start fighting the sector beasts, the moment one sector beast discovers me, it will be the same as being discovered by all the sector beasts. By then, I will be forced to execute another plan. It's fate's call. I can only sneak attack one sector beast. In that case, I can destroy the leader, and his gang will be the next to fall. Since I can only sneak attack one of them, I shall choose Betty. A look of aggressiveness flashed in Luo Feng's eyes. Earlier, Morosa had specially marked out the whereabouts of the 100 most powerful sector beasts in the nest, and the most powerful one of them all was none other than Betty. This video will end here.